had that eerie feeling something is off with reality? Like a scene from The Matrix. Sometimes the real world seems to stutter or glitch, and it's all caught on live TV. From news anchors freezing mid-sentence to ghostly figures strolling through stadiums, these bizarre televised moments have left viewers wondering if we're all characters in some cosmic video game. Imagine watching a live news report and suddenly the reporter's words turn into total gibberish. That's exactly what happened during a CBS Los Angeles broadcast from the 2011 Grammy Awards. Viewers were stunned when reporter Serene Branson went from speaking normally to uttering a string of nonsensical sounds on live TV.
Well, a very, very heavy debatation tonight. We had a very Darrison.
She visibly panicked as she realized something was wrong, leading many to fear that she was having a stroke on air. Paramedics rushed to examine her, and thankfully, her vital signs were normal. It turned out Serene had suffered a complex migraine that mimicked stroke-like symptoms, causing sudden aphasia or speech impairment. In other words, her brain glitched, scrambling her speech. The clip went viral as a real-life Matrix moment, a healthy young reporter seemingly malfunctioning without warning. It was a scary sight, but also a relief when we learned it wasn't a true stroke. Still, for a few seconds of live TV, it felt like reality itself had briefly broken down. A famous weatherman suddenly freezes like an NPC caught in lag. On The Today Show in 2012, co-hosts Savannah Guthrie and Matt Lauer finished a silly dance joking about leaving room for the Holy Ghost between dance partners. That's when Al Roker, the beloved NBC weatherman, did the unthinkable. He stared directly into the camera, motionless with a goofy grin for a full 17 seconds. He didn't blink, didn't move a muscle. It was as if someone hit the pause button on Al Roker. Roker later explained that it was a bit of deadpan humor, essentially a brain freeze challenge he did on purpose. The show's director egged him on to see how long he could hold the pose, and Al committed to the bit. Even so, watching it back, many viewers felt a chill. The moment looked so uncanny that it's now a classic glitch in the Matrix clip. During a live soccer match, a shadow person sprinted through the stands, and no one can agree if it was a glitch, a ghost, or just a camera trick. This incident happened at a stadium in La Paz, Bolivia, during a Fox Sports broadcast in 2014. In the footage, you see a dark, human-shaped figure running rapidly across the lower tier seats straight through the crowd, yet no one in the audience seems to react to it. Viewers at home were creeped out. Was it a ghost caught on live TV? Rational explanations soon emerged. Lighting snafu or video artifact, basically a technical glitch that made a real person's image smear across the screen. But that hasn't stopped wild theories. The clip went viral, with some saying the stadium is haunted or that we witnessed a Matrix running program acting up. What's freakier than one person glitching? How about two people glitching together? Twin sisters Paula and Bridget Powers from Australia gave an interview that left viewers' jaws on the floor. They were recounting a dramatic carjacking incident involving their mother, but it wasn't the story that stole the show, it was how they told it. The twins spoke in a mesmerizing stereo, often saying the exact same words at the exact same time during the live interview.
So we drop everything and we went running out the front. We seen Mum running out from the house up there.
At times, one twin would start a sentence and the other would finish it in perfect sync, as if they shared one mind. The effect was so uncanny that the clip went viral worldwide, and even Jimmy Kimmel invited them on his show out of sheer fascination. The sisters themselves just laughed it off, saying their brains think alike at the same time after a lifetime together. Indeed, Paula and Bridget have spent 51 years dressing alike, working together, and practically living in parallel. So while it seems paranormal, it's likely just an extraordinary sibling bond. Viewers thought they spotted a shape-shifting reptilian on the news, but the truth was more technological. In an old CTV news clip that resurfaced online, a female reporter delivers the headlines when suddenly her eyes appear to glitch. During a blink, her eyes don't look human for a split second, they seem fixed and glazed over, almost like a doll's. or a computer-rendered image. Experts explained that it was a rolling screen repaint artifact from the broadcast. Basically, this was an analog TV signal glitch. On old antenna TV, if the signal degrades at the wrong moment, in this case when she blinked, part of the previous frame's data can briefly hold on for a second. The result? Her eyes open from a prior frame overlaid on her face while blinking, creating a creepy illusion that her eyes blinked but didn't close. Technical or not, it looked really freaky, like an NPC in a video game failing to load its textures. Even after hearing the explanation, some joked, "Sure, that's what they want you to believe." This one isn't a glitch in the video, it's a glitch in the broadcast itself, and it's straight up like something out of a techno thriller. In November 1987, Chicago sportscaster Dan Roan was doing the nightly news when suddenly the signal hijacked. TV screens went black for a second, and then viewers were suddenly staring at a bizarre figure. Someone in a Max Headroom mask bobbing around in front of a swiveling metal background. No sound, just 30 seconds of this super creepy masked intruder. Engineers managed to regain control on that channel, but it wasn't over. About 2 hours later, during a Doctor Who episode on another station, Max Headroom hacker struck again, this time with audio. The masked person spoke in distorted garbles, laughed, moaned, even exposed their bare behind to the camera while being spanked with a fly swatter. Yeah, it was really weird. After about 90 seconds, the pirate broadcast ended. Viewers and station officials were completely baffled. Who was that? How did they break into major TV station signals? The Federal Communications Commission launched an investigation, but to this day, the culprits have still never been caught or identified. Even decades later, watching the Max Headroom incident on YouTube will give you a serious case of the heebie-jeebies. Somebody has the chance to have the best deathbed confession of all time. Imagine your grandfather, you're saying your final goodbyes, and he's like, "I was Max Headroom." That would be crazy.
In 2005, ABC 13 Action News in Las Vegas covered a man named Ramon Watkins, who referred to himself as Prophet Yahweh. He claimed that he could summon UFOs just by praying, and said he would prove it live on camera. Well, ABC sent a reporter, Mike Dello Stritto, and a cameraman to meet him near Lake Mead. The prophet prayed, and within moments, something strange appeared in the sky. It was two bright spherical objects, hovering and slowly moving in the distance. The cameraman caught them clearly on video as they floated across the sky. The footage aired live, and people who were watching could see it happen in real time. This wasn't a quick flash or something easily dismissed. It stayed visible long enough for everyone to focus on it. Prophet Yahweh said he heard a voice in his head telling him when the UFOs would appear and where to look. But was this really the case? I mean, that is obviously very hard to believe. Could the objects have been balloons, drones, aircraft? Maybe, but they didn't seem to move like any of those things. The ABC crew didn't offer an explanation, and the event still gets passed around online with no solid answer for what actually showed up in the sky that day. On August 5th, 2009, during a live morning news broadcast on BBC Northeast, anchor Colin Briggs was delivering the day's stories when something strange appeared on the screen behind him. It was this wide shot of the Millennium Bridge in Newcastle, coming from the BBC's live webcam feed. Suddenly, this white streak of light zips across the frame, not falling downward, but shooting further into the sky before disappearing. The object was fast moving, but clear enough that viewers noticed, and people started recording it from their televisions and quickly shared the clips online. Some said it was a bird, a toy plane, but it doesn't really look like either of those things to me, and it didn't to Nick Pope, who is a former UK Ministry of Defence UFO investigator. He reviewed the slowdown footage and said it didn't look like a bird and that the movement was genuinely strange. The BBC later did a follow-up asking for viewer opinions, but never provided a final answer or any definitive explanation for what happened. On February 11th, 2013, during an afternoon broadcast on KRTV in Great Falls, Montana, during an episode of the Steve Wilkos Show, the emergency alert system suddenly cut in. Thank God, everyone said. Why was I watching the Steve Wilkos Show? Suddenly, though, viewers heard this voice calmly announce that the, quote, bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living.
Civil authorities in your area have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living.
The message warned people not to approach these zombies and to wait for further instructions. It sounded pretty official and used the same tones and format as real emergency alerts. Within hours, similar hoax messages interrupted TV stations in Michigan, Wisconsin, and New Mexico. Even more strange, 2 days later, a radio station in La Crosse, Wisconsin played a recording of the hoax alert and accidentally triggered the EAS again, rebroadcasting the zombie warning to viewers who thought it was happening all over again. Investigators later confirmed that hackers had exploited a weak security on the emergency broadcast equipment, in many cases using default passwords that were still active. The hackers were eventually caught, but as for how exactly they did this, that's never been disclosed, probably for obvious reasons.
Starting off this countdown, we have the zombie broadcast. In February of 2013, an unknown hacker hacked a station in Montana, KRTV. This happened during the broadcast of the Steve Wilkos Show. Now, what they did was hack into the channel's emergency alert system. Then they broadcast an alert saying that there was a zombie invasion happening in Montana. They said that zombies were leaving their graves and that some parts of Montana were already taken over by them. However, this warning was not taken seriously. Joke's on them though, because if it was real, they probably all would have died. Others thought that it was just an advertising for the show The Walking Dead. But no, it was just a random hacker trying to scare people and have fun. They also tried to hack into other television stations, but they were unsuccessful. In our 9th spot today, we have the poem. On February 26, 2022, Anonymous, as part of the cyber war declared to Russia, hacked a number of pro-Kremlin TV channels. They decided to broadcast a poem called No War. It's about the Russian-Ukrainian war. On top of that, they played footage of what was going on and played Ukrainian music. And recently, they did it again, which I will be talking about in a little bit. In our 8th spot today, we have the inappropriate viewing. In February of 2009, someone hacked KVOA, a channel in Tucson, Arizona. The hack occurred while they were airing the Super Bowl game between Cardinals and the Steelers. And they decided to replace the game with some adult content, if you get what I'm saying. It featured a couple getting it on. And what was funny is that many people sat through it thinking that it was a commercial. But then when there was nudity, they're like, okay, something's going on here, kids, cover your eyes. The hacker wasn't discovered until 2 years later. FBI figured out that it was Frank Gonzalez, who worked for Cox Cable. The irony on that name. In our 7th spot, we have the Russian TV services. Just recently, amidst the horror that's happening over in Ukraine, Anonymous decided to hack into Russian TVs and to show them the true devastation of Putin's Ukraine invasion. The group then shared videos of this deed onto Twitter. At first, they just targeted the channels on Russia 24, Moscow 24, Channel 1, Wink, and LVI. However, now all Russian state TV channels have been hacked. The broadcast ended with a message that read, "Ordinary Russians are against the war," and then called for Russians to oppose the attack on Ukraine. Now my thoughts are with anyone currently affected by this war. It is truly devastating.
On April 27th, 1986, HBO viewers were watching The Falcon and the Snowman when their screens suddenly cut to black, and for about 5 minutes, a message appeared in bright white text on a color test pattern that read, "Good evening, HBO, from Captain Midnight. $12.95 a month? No way." The broadcast had been hijacked. The person behind it was John R. McDougall, a satellite engineer who was frustrated with HBO's pricing, which he felt was unfair to satellite dish owners who had to pay monthly fees for content that used to be free. McDougall later admitted that he'd used his own satellite equipment at a Florida transmission site to briefly override HBO's signal. He knew exactly how to aim his dish and transmit at just the right frequency to cut into their feed. Authorities launched an investigation, and within a few months, he was caught. He was fined and given probation, so yeah, the guy was identified, but I just had to bring this one up. The fact that this guy successfully interrupted one of the largest cable networks without immediate detection is pretty nuts. This is one of the most high-profile broadcast intrusions in US history. In 2021, Sam Hessler, a reporter for CBS 6, was doing a live morning segment from Greenbridge Cemetery in Saratoga County, New York. At the time, everything seemed perfectly normal. Nobody on set noticed anything unusual. It wasn't until later that day when a viewer contacted the station saying they'd seen something strange walking behind her during the broadcast. When the news team went back to review the footage, they spotted it too. Some sort of figure crossing the background. It almost looked like it appeared out of nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. The clip got passed around and people slowed it down to try and figure out what it was. In the slowed version, you can clearly see a shadowy form moving across the screen. Now, Green Ridge Cemetery already has a bit of a spooky reputation. There have been stories of eerie things there over the years. You can imagine the details. Nothing super out of the ordinary for a cemetery. But to have something captured on live television like this, that hits a little different. The reptilian conspiracy is one of the more out there theories floating around, but somehow it's got a pretty big following, partly thanks to supposed footage of it. The idea is that some of the world's most powerful people, your politicians, singers, actors, that they're not actually human, that they're instead these shape-shifting reptilian creatures wearing human skin suits as a disguise while secretly pulling the strings behind all the world's biggest decisions. What's kept this conspiracy alive for so long is what some claim to be video evidence. Over the years, live TV has supposedly caught these lizard people slipping up. There are clips of news anchors and politicians where their pupils briefly look like vertical slits instead of round human eyes. Sometimes their faces seem to glitch, momentarily revealing what looks like snake-like patches of skin underneath. Plenty of people have slowed these clips down, zoomed in, and picked apart the footage frame by frame, and then posted top 10 lists online talking about it.
We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Wyoming hijacking. Now this is a pretty creepy hijacking that occurred in 2006 to a channel in Wyoming. Someone hacked an unnamed channel affiliated with ABC. Now reports don't say exactly what channel, so I guess they want some sort of privacy. Anyways, during the evening news, they hacked and played a video of an animated head while text appeared by it. The text read things like, "You are ill, we just want to fix you, and you will see such pretty things." Pretty creepy, right? Well, it gets worse. The hacker also showed some strange images on the screen, accompanied by a strange tone. A number of people reportedly got sick after watching this. They ended up with headaches, nausea, even amnesia. Some even threw up after hearing this tone. Other people hallucinated upon hearing it. To this day, people don't know who was behind it, but some people believe that it wasn't a hacker behind this. Instead, they think it was some paranormal activity. In our 4th spot, we have the Israeli TV stations. In November of 2016, an unknown hacker hacked into Israeli TV stations, channels 2 and 10, during the evening news. In replace of that, they broadcasted messages mocking Israel and saying that God is judging the nation. In fact, at that time, Israel was facing terrible wildfires, so they claimed that this was done by God as a punishment. The hacker also transmitted images of Islamic religious areas and audio of an Islamic call to prayer and scriptures from the Quran. Now, this was aired the night before a vote to restrict Muslim prayer call. They wanted to ban it, citing noise pollution. So this hack was done to be like, God is angry at your decision and this vote, and it was done to try and get them to change their mind about it all. In our 3rd spot, we have the Weather Channel hacking. I don't know who would want to hack a weather channel, but this individual thought it was a good idea. But they didn't really cause mischief. They just wanted to stop the channel from running its regular program, which is quite odd. So the hacking occurred on April 18th, 2019 from 6 a.m. to 7:39 a.m. Later, it was discovered that the hack was going to be a ransomware attack. So the hacker wanted the station to pay them money before they could resume airing. But that did not end up happening, so better luck next time. Moving on to number 2, we have the adult entertainment cable. This next person decided to hack into some adult entertainment programs like American Ecstasy and Playboy. This occurred in September of 1987. After hacking into it, they played religious messages, I guess to try and tell people that what they were doing and watching is sinful and that they need to turn to God for help. The hacker was later revealed as 38-year-old Thomas M. Haney, who worked for the Christian Broadcast Network. He was later charged for the hacks, but they were dropped because there was a lack of evidence. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the aliens. On November 26th of 1979, an alien hacked into Southern Television during the 5 p.m. news. Now, viewers could see the newscaster, Andrew Gardner, but instead of hearing him, they were hearing an alien, or so the broadcast claimed. The voice they were hearing claimed to be an alien called Rillon, who was part of an alien group called the Ashtar Galactic Command. He said that humans needed to stop engaging in warfare and that every weapon on Earth should be destroyed. This should be done in order for the human race to live in peace, and only then could humans get to the higher realms of spiritual evolution. Sadly, the aliens' message didn't have a huge impact on viewers, but to this day, the hacker remains unknown.
At number 9 we have Looney Larry. You thought the only time kids would be safe was while they're watching cartoons. It turns out kids are never safe, thanks global warming. But there was a broadcast that was hacked in Wisconsin. A bunch of kids were just hanging out watching SpongeBob. Well, if it was SpongeBob, it was probably a bunch of kids and some college students as well. But out of nowhere, the show was switched to this dude who called himself Looney Larry.
Hi, this is Looney Larry. Welcome to my show, and
The clip goes on like that, and Larry does some pretty strange stuff like breaking SpongeBob records in this creepy basement and saying some pretty controversial things that I won't repeat here. At number 8 we have Disney Channel porn. This story is so cliche it almost seems like it would never happen outside of a movie, but here we are. There was one sunny morning where a bunch of kids were sitting around watching the Disney Channel, probably while their parents were getting stuff ready so they could go to school. And then some hardcore got laid over the broadcast. It was 2007 in New Jersey, and a bunch of kids who were watching a show called Handy Manny stopped seeing a young boy living out his dreams of carpentry and instead saw something that is only saved for mommies and daddies who love each other. Comcast was the cable network that caused the mix-up, but they never said why they screwed up so royally. They just used the Shaggy method and said, "It wasn't me." At number 7 we have Fight for Freedom. Not all of the TV interruptions have to be perverted or weird to be scary. Some of them can be totally for a good cause, but they will scare the crap out of you because you have no idea what that means for your country, and it could mean that it's time for a revolution, and revolutions are always terrifying because people will just start dying. In the city of Torun in Poland, a broadcast got stolen in 1985. Why? Because 4 very important people in the Polish science community had a message for the people. They wanted everyone to boycott the upcoming election. They were tired of how the government had been taking from the people and demanded that the people rise up against them. The police were able to trace the signal back to these 4 men, but because of civil unrest and fear of a revolution, they didn't arrest them but only fined them. Yeah, public officials start to be real nice when the walls are closing in on them.
Coming in at number 10, we have Handy Manny interrupted by porn. Early on a weekday morning in May 2007, kids in New Jersey, USA were eating their breakfast and watching a Disney Channel show, Handy Manny. Unfortunately, instead of seeing their favorite tool-wielding handyman, they saw, a tool-wielding handyman, but not a very kid-friendly one. Where is he putting that tool? It's the question. That's right, the broadcast was interrupted by hardcore pornography, which must have been pretty terrifying for the kids, but more so for the parents who found their kids watching it. Comcast, the cable network that Handy Manny was airing on, apologized but never commented on how the interference came to be or who was behind it.
The video is so graphic we can't show it. And it goes on for almost 6 straight minutes.
Coming into number 9, we have a scary old couple conspiracy. In July 2007, ABC affiliate WJLA had their signal interrupted and something weird flashed up on the screen. It was a spooky picture and a grainy image of 2 elderly people. There was no sound involved, just the image. Creepy, but not that bad, right? Sure. However, the plot thickens. The cable company brushed over it, saying it was a programming mix-up from an earlier Oprah show. Okay, fine, so then why were all the video clips of the hijacking removed from YouTube immediately after? A lot of people think that the network was covering up for something way more sinister. Coming into number 8, we have Captain Midnight's protest. In 1986, a disgruntled electrical engineer named John McDougall was seriously peed at HBO for their high subscription prices. At the time it was around $12.95 a month, which is about $30 today. McDougall called himself Captain Midnight and threatened to hijack stations periodically, targeting Showtime next. Coming Coming into number 7, we have the Wyoming incident. In 2008, it is said that a local news network in Wyoming was broadcasting some coverage of the general election. However, the broadcast was interrupted by black and grey stripes with text reading, "You will see such pretty things." This was followed by clips of disembodied human heads. Apparently, the pirate broadcast was shown at such a high frequency that it made some viewers vomit. Now, you can read a lot about the Wyoming incident on a creepypasta site or urban legend sites. However, I've been unable to find an official news source. This leads me to believe that it is just that, an urban legend. Coming into number 6, we have aliens on Southern television. On November the 26th, 1977, a scary alien voice interrupted a British TV broadcast at 5:10 in the afternoon on ITV. Hijacking the Hannington transmitter, a scary speaker interrupted transmissions for 6 whole minutes. Now, they claimed to be an alien called Virillan from the Intergalactic Association. With a distorted voice, Virillan said that all weapons of mass evil must be removed. He warned that humanity has a short time to learn to live together in peace. The voice implored humanity to remain peaceful so that we could be part of the Great Awakening of the Age of Aquarius. The hijack was vocal only, and later ITV called the hijack a breakthrough in sound. The identity of the hijacker has never been found. Perhaps it was aliens warning us.
At number 5, we have C-SPAN meets Russia. A lot of people tune into C-SPAN to get their daily dose of news, and there was one day in 2017 when everything was going as normal. There was a bunch of people in suits talking about the budget and deficit and Congress, and then out of nowhere it stopped being about boring politics, and then it was just a boring Russian talk show. Everyone was like, what is happening? And this didn't just pop up for a few seconds and then disappear, it was on the screen for 10 minutes. That's a long time to have interference with a Russian signal. Now, why is this on a list of top 10 scary TV interruptions? Well, that's because a lot of people think this was Russia testing their ability to hijack American television signals, and it was extremely successful if that's what it was. That means they could still be doing this but not switching our programming, but grabbing our data. Stay away from my data, Russia! No one needs to know what my data is except for Instagram so they can give me better ads. Yeah, I want the good ads. Discount Steam games and gaming accessories. See, that's how you get the good ones. At number 4, we have zombies. Sometimes you're just trying to watch some trash TV and then a zombie outbreak ruins everything. And if you don't watch trash TV, then I don't trust you, and you deserve to be eaten by zombies because you're up to something. I don't know what it is. Well, there was an episode of the Steve Wilkos show that was just being as trash as ever. Everyone around the world was just drinking it in and loving every second of watching people's lives fall apart, and then they got hit with some news that told them that their life was about to fall apart. Well, if you lived in Montana, you did. This following message started moving across the screen.
Civil authorities in your area have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living. Follow the message.
That is terrifying, and also you shouldn't do that to people. Not because it's going to scare them, but because someone is going to get really eager. Some people have been waiting their whole life for the apocalypse, and now they have the chance to go full apocalypse. You're just giving them false hope. Like, that's rude. At number 2, we have threats against the Hezbollah. In 2006, the Israel-Lebanon war was reaching new heights. As the old saying goes, all is fair in love and war. Israel wanted to find more ways to attack Lebanon outside of just explosives and bullets. The Hezbollah was a group that was very much the spearhead in the war against Israel, and they had a television channel known as Al-Manar TV. This is how a lot of people in Lebanon would get political information and updates on the war. Well, Israel found a way to hijack this signal and send a very threatening signal to all the people in Lebanon. They showed the leader of the Hezbollah with a crosshair over his face and the message, "Your time will come." If you're at home watching that channel for the news and then you see this would be so terrifying. You wouldn't be able to fall asleep after that. And for our number 1 spot, we have Christine Chubbuck. One of the most shocking things to ever happen on television. It changed news, it changed broadcasting, and it changed the world. Christine Chubbuck was a news anchor, and her life wasn't moving exactly as she wanted. She was constantly battling against the different parts of her life. She wanted to bring interesting, wholesome news stories into the news, But that's not what got views. It was salacious death and terror that people wanted to watch, so her bosses were pushing her to find those kinds of stories. Her love life wasn't exactly what she wanted either. It's believed that at 30 years old, Christine had never been physically intimate with anyone. With that plus a few other factors stacked on top of her, like her inability to have children, she was dipping into a very depressed state. Because of all this, on July 15th, 1974, she walked into the studio, started a live broadcast, and then committed on live television. People originally thought it was a prank. It wasn't until the story was in newspapers that everyone knew it was real.
Coming in at number 7, we have Anonymous versus Fox News.
Dear Fox News, it has come to our attention that you have been alienating the American people by propagating the left-right.
Good old hacktivation station. I think hacktivist is my favourite word of this century. In 2015, Anonymous, known for their creepy smiling Guy Fawkes masks and altered voices, took over a live Fox News broadcast. Now, Fox News was conducting a euthanasia interview when Anonymous took over. Now, they started by saying, "Dear Fox News, it has come to our attention that you have been alienating the American people by propagating the left-right." They continued by berating Fox for purposefully scaring people about terrorism and covering up corporate corruption. Anonymous said, "You have sacrificed your journalistic integrity for the dollar." They end by saying Fox have been poisoning the minds of America for too long. Anonymous does not forgive, Anonymous does not forget. Scary. Honestly, I don't know if I like Anonymous or not, but their masks do freak me out. The mystery here to me lies in who Anonymous really are. We just don't know yet. And also, how can they take down such a big and powerful station like Fox? Coming in at number 6, we have Captain Midnight. So who is Captain Midnight? Well, that really is the question. He sounds maybe a bit more glamorous than he actually is. Captain Midnight was an adventure franchise, but in this instance, it was a character constructed by a disgruntled HBO employee who was livid at the channel for raising their subscription prices to $12.95 a month, which I think is around the equivalent of $30 today. The interruption included a threat to the Showtime movie channel too. They simply said, "Beware." Then there was a period of black and white messed signal. Honestly, have a little watch. All of the cracking and buzzing throughout this is supposed to be HBO station trying to get their power back and Captain Midnight fighting by upping his power, which actually really does sound like an exciting superhero fight. Eventually HBO lost and was forced to stop at risk of blowing their transmitters.
We think of the moon as dead and lifeless sometimes, but one mystery suggests it still holds secrets. Spacecraft orbiting the moon have detected strong, localized magnetic fields locked in some lunar rocks, especially on the far side. That's weird because today the moon has no global magnetic field or active core like Earth does. Some magnetism was expected from billions of years ago when the moon was molten inside, but the amounts on the far side just don't add up. Why are certain patches of lunar soil so strongly magnetized? A team from MIT recently suggested that a gigantic asteroid impact billions of years ago might have blasted the moon with a cloud of plasma and shock waves, magnetizing rocks across the globe. Their computer models show this could explain some of the anomalies on the far side, but even with that theory, the moon's magnetic map has, quote, large parts still unexplained. In other words, nobody has the complete answer yet. The moon seems to be playing a cosmic shell game with magnetism, leaving geologists scratching their heads. It's not a glitch you'd see with your eyes, but a hidden quirk in the moon's memory, and until we bring back more samples, the full story is still up in the air. In March 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 vanished with 239 people on board. That part is very well known. But what's lesser known is an alternative theory involving the US military base on Diego Garcia, an extremely remote island in the Indian Ocean. Some data suggested the flight veered off course and flew for hours before vanishing a second time, this time near where Diego Garcia is located. Adding to the mystery, multiple people, including a US-based tech worker named Philip Wood, allegedly sent messages from their phones after the disappearance. Wood's supposed message, posted online days later, claimed he was being held on Diego Garcia and included metadata that some claimed pointed to the island. While many dismissed this as a hoax, others were stunned by the implications. There's no confirmed explanation, and the US has never acknowledged anything unusual, but here's the glitch. How did a commercial flight vanish from modern radar, ping satellites for hours, and possibly transmit data from a military zone? Whether the metadata was faked or not, the story stirred paranoia worldwide. It feels like a window into a shadowy corner of our world where time, truth, and tracking technology all failed at once. In the 1970s, a man named Derek Smith was walking near the abandoned RAF Montrose airfield in Scotland when he said he witnessed something out of time. He reported seeing a vintage aircraft, a World War I biplane, approach the field and begin to land. As the plane touched down, the vision faded. The sight was so vivid that Smith later researched the airfield's history and discovered that a pilot named Lieutenant Desmond Arthur had died in a biplane crash there in 1913. What makes this story more chilling is that it wasn't an isolated incident. Over the years, other visitors to RAF Montrose have described similar sightings: a ghostly plane circling, phantom engines humming, and even full apparitions of early 20th century airmen walking the field. Some theories suggest a quote time slip, a localized distortion where moments from the past replay in our present. Unlike typical ghost stories, these sightings were investigated by historians and even Air Force personnel who confirmed the area's long-standing reputation. The Royal Air Force eventually fenced off parts of the site, whether it was trauma imprinted on the land or something stranger. RAF Montrose became a real-world glitch where time didn't play by the rules.
Okay, a little mid-list urban legend for you. Coming in at number 5, we have Baby Ogre at midnight. So the Baby Ogre commercial is a Japanese ad for Kleenex, which sure is weird. The story goes that the commercial was hijacked by a curse, and after it aired in 1986, everyone involved died or met some kind of horrible luck. For example, the woman who was supposed to have birthed a demon baby in the advert died after actually giving birth in real life. Further urban legends say that if you watch the commercial at midnight, the footage will be interrupted and will warp in front of your very eyes, and you too will become a victim of the curse. Some people in the YouTube comment section for this video say that they have seen the commercial at midnight and it was interrupted and they are cursed, so watch out, I guess. Coming in at number 2, we have the Aliens of Area 51. Coast to Coast AM was a talk show run by a chap called Art Bell. Now, he was pretty famous, or infamous I should say, in his day. He did used to get a lot of strange calls on the show. The incident that took place on September the 12th, 1997 really takes the biscuit though. That night, Art got a call from a guy who claimed to have been an employee at Area 51, which obviously is the conspiracy base for the US Air Force where people say, you know, there were aliens that crash landed and were studied. The caller sounded absolutely terrified and claimed that they were coming for him, whoever they are. He said that he did not have much time to share with the world what he knew about Area 51. He talked about extra-dimensional beings who are not what they appear to be. He said that they have infiltrated the US military and are now, quote-unquote, taking over.
So give us something quick. Okay, what we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra-dimensional beings.
The caller began to sound even more erratic and panicked, and finally he started talking about how governments are trying to get human populations down to a manageable number so they're easier to control, which does sound like some conspiracy stuff to me. Just after this, the line went dead when the power cut out at the station. Now that's pretty fishy, right? By the time they got the backup generators running, the caller was gone. Now theorists do say it was more than a coincidence that the caller was cut off and then never heard from again, just when he began talking about the government. I mean, what do you think? Is Area 51 real? Have aliens infiltrated the military? Nah. Alright, speaking of aliens, this is one of my favourite mysterious broadcast interruptions. We have the story of Virilon. On a cold winter's night in the south of the UK in the 1970s, an alien alien interrupted the news, or so the story goes. In a regular newscast, Southern TV's news anchor Andrew Gardner was regaling the day's news headline when at 10:05 p.m. the TV picture started wobbling and the sound of the news anchor's measured delivery was all of a sudden replaced by a distorted alien voice. This voice then hijacked the station for nearly 6 minutes. The voice proclaimed to be one Virilon, a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command. He said, "For many years you have been seeing us as lights in the sky. We speak to you now in peace and wisdom as we have done to your brothers and sisters all over this planet, your planet Earth. We come to warn you of the destiny of your race and your world so that you may communicate to your fellow beings the course that you must take to avoid the disaster which threatens your world and the beings in our worlds around you." Use the word world a lot, have a listen for yourself.
False prophets and guides of wisdom operating on your earth. They will suck your energy from you, the energy you call money.
So if you don't quite understand what he's saying, he's warning about false leaders and prophets putting money into evil pursuits. He ends the speech by imploring planet Earth to change its ways before it's, I quote, too late. Blimey. It really is still a mystery as to who is behind this prank. If it was a prank, it could have been, you know, like an actual alien. I for one absolutely hope that in the past 40 years, Virilon and the gang have been working on clearer transmissions because Honey barely understood a word of that.
Starting off this countdown, we have the glitching cat. Either this cat is walking on an invisible treadmill or it was caught glitching. Recently, this video was uploaded to Reddit and it features a cat walking but staying perfectly in one place. So you might be thinking, aw, poor kitty, the ground must be slippery for them. And that's why it's having trouble walking. No, because a couple seconds into the video, a confused man walks by and the cat stops, turns to him and then walks in his direction. But then it turns back and starts walking in the spot again. Is this a glitch in the Matrix? Or should I say glitch in the Meowtrix? Sorry, I hate myself. In our 9th spot, we have the television. Posted on Reddit by user Spice Rack, he was trying to take a photo of his kittens when he caught a huge glitch on camera. They explained that they were trying to capture a photo of the hidden cat on the gray blanket. When he showed his friends, they're like, "Yo, dude, look at your TV." Turns out that the TV screen is showing a different image than its reflection in the mirror. Now, a lot of people tried to debunk this. He thought maybe he took the photo sideways with a professional camera, since cameras snap the photo from up to down. That could explain the change. But the poster verified that it was taken horizontally with an LG G5 with a 135-degree wide-angle lens, hence why the door at the side looks a bit warped. He didn't use panorama, and no stitching was involved, and it wasn't done intentionally. This was taken as a single shot. Quite weird, huh? What are the odds? Moving on, at number 8, we have the disappearing motorists. No, this isn't proof of teleportation. They aren't driving into a portal and transporting somewhere miles away, although it certainly looks like that. I don't know about you, but when I first saw this video, I was mind blown. Like, I really thought they were going to be driving off the road and into the water. Now, someone on Reddit has managed to debunk this one. Seems as if whoever is filming this is high up on a building looking down, and the water we see is actually just the top of a wet building. But the way it's angled makes it look like they're really going under a bridge and disappearing. Let me know if you see it now. In our 7th spot today, we have the sky glitch. Posted by Reddit user Grimsby545, they were headed to their friend's house when they legitimately saw the sky glitching and took a picture of the moment. Look at that! The sky didn't know if it was night or daytime. Now, I have seen the sunset, but I have never seen the sky do something like this. Now, some think that it's just a giant cloud blocking the sky. If it is, then that's one massive dark cloud, like it literally blocked the sun and majority of the sky. Either way, it looks like a glitch in the Matrix where the nighttime sky didn't load completely. Moving on, at number 6, we have the broken bracelet. Now, this is probably one of the weirdest glitches in the Matrix of all time. So, Reddit user Miss MXSN posted on Reddit about how she found a bead from her bracelet on her floor while sweeping. She immediately thought, oh no, my bracelet broke. But it didn't. The bracelet still had 15 gems and 15 turtles on it. But all of a sudden, she had this extra turtle bead. Plus, the bracelet was perfectly fine. Now, people immediately shared a number of different theories with her. One was that her bracelet broke and someone in her family bought a replacement one so that she wouldn't notice. Only problem with this is that she claims she never takes this bracelet off and it was bought while she was on vacation, so it's not just from a local store. Another person thought maybe the bead had a fine crack in it and it slipped off the string. But like she said, she always had 15 turtles on the bracelet, and that's how many she still had. Plus, upon inspection of the turtle bead, there were no cracks or flaws. So something glitched and she ended up with an extra bead.
Coming in at number 5 is Lady Gaga. Okay, let me make one thing very clear. I'm a huge fan of Lady Gaga. Like, huge. I think she's an amazing artist and just a super badass person. All of that being said, I am fully aware that many people think she's a total weirdo, and like, if lizard people did turn out to be real, I could see why people would suspect Gaga to be one. I mean, if anything, what is more camp than being a shape-shifting reptile masquerading as a human, right? The main clip that brought Gaga into the suspect list of shapeshifters was from a live interview several years back, and just like almost every alleged lizard person, the clues were in her eyes. Now, first off, her eye makeup, gorgeous, but if you peer a little deeper into those eyes, you might notice something kinda looks off. She looks down for a second, blinks her eyes, and then just ever so slightly you can see that it looks like her pupils change shape and get slightly thinner for a second. Then boom, back to normal. Also, she did once say in an interview that she has always loved to shapeshift. I mean, she was talking about her hair and makeup, but was it a clue? Is this solid proof she's a lizard person from the constellation of Draco? I guess it depends on who you ask. Next up at number 4 is Isaiah Carey. Several years back in 1995, there was a reporter for NBC who became an overnight sensation after a hilarious video of him swallowing a grasshopper aired during a live broadcast. People kind of fell in love with him because he had such a huge reaction and totally switched up his entire demeanor after he accidentally swallowed the bug. However, not too long after, some people noticed something was a little off about the video, and some even started to wonder if swallowing the bug was an accident at all. What's strange about this video is that if you pay close enough attention, kinda looks like his tongue is actually aiming for the bug, just like a frog reaching for a fly. Not to mention, he has quite a big tongue compared to most people, and it kinda looks a little pointy. Either way, after he swallows the bug, he immediately turns away from the camera, and some have suggested this is to hide any further evidence that he was actively shapeshifting at the time. But also, I would probably turn away from a camera if a bug flew into my mouth without warning too. I don't know, man. Either way, the video is hilarious, so let me know what you think. Evil reptile or funny human? Coming in at number 3 is a mysterious creature. So this video is definitely one of the weirder ones on this list, cause like actually what the heck is happening? Inside what appears to be some sort of cave, a pair of glowing orb eyeball things peek out from behind the wall, but when whoever is actually holding the camera advances on them, they quickly retreat back behind the wall. Like, not gonna lie, it's kind of creepy. The creature then continues to peek out to see if the cameraman is gone before stepping out completely, showing its unnerving form, and then suddenly bolting away deeper into the cave, never to be seen again. Now, the real question, of course, what is it? Is it a shapeshifter, a weird alien, some other weird thing we have never heard of or seen before? I mean, all I know is I would not want to see that alone in a dark cave by myself. I just have a bad feeling it would kill me and eat my flesh. I'm just saying. Coming in at number 2, a security guard. It goes without saying that presidents are not going to really go anywhere without their security guards. But what do we really know about their security? And if there is reason to believe that politicians themselves are a part of the alien lizard race, then wouldn't it make sense that their protection would be too? Well, speaking of, back in 2012, during a speech made by President Obama, footage of the audience captured captured a peculiar looking security guard in the crowd. At first glance, you might think it's just like a pale, bald dude standing there, but when they pan to the side, it straight up looks like he has no ears. I mean, what is going on here? It's giving Voldemort, if you ask me. Even weirder is when the video zooms in. If you really pay attention, it kind of looks like his head is pulsating, which, truth be told, I have no clue what that could be about, but lots of people have come forward saying it's definitely footage of him shape-shifting right before our eyes. I mean, would that mean that everyone in the CIA is a lizard person, or just a select few? I want to know how it's decided what people get taken over by the alien lizard overlords. What is their system is all. I'm just wondering. And last up today in our #1 spot is Timothy Geithner. As I mentioned, it's not just A-list movie star celebs that have been accused of being a part of the lizard race taking over mankind. Among some of the most accused are politicians and even the staff that work under them. Former Secretary of the Treasury under President Obama's presidency is among one of those that some have come to believe is a dangerous lizard person hiding behind the face of a human man. The clip that raised some eyebrows and added him into the long list of potential involved personnel came from some kind of speech, and it definitely is very odd. Unlike most of the others on this list, it wasn't his eyes that had people questioning him, but the skin surrounding them. For a moment in the video, it looks like Timothy shifts into his reptile form, and the scales begin to show through the skin around his eyes, until suddenly he touches his face and it magically disappears. Like, could this be faked? I mean, of course it could, it's the internet. But like, was it? Or is it just a really super creepy video proving an alien race of lizard people?
In the 1970s, a classified UK military experiment known as Project Hess allegedly documented multiple cases of soldiers vanishing for several minutes at a time from sealed, secure rooms. The men would reappear exactly where they vanished with no recollection of what happened, only confusion and nausea. Internal memos, declassified decades later, described the disappearances as, quote, brief temporal dislocations and caution about exposure to certain radio frequencies. No official explanation was ever made public, and the files were quietly buried again in the early 2000s. During early high-energy collisions at CERN's Large Hadron Collider, atomic clocks monitoring the site began to show minuscule but measurable discrepancies. Scientists noted in some tests clocks located near the collider would shift by fractions of a microsecond compared to those further away. This should not happen. Time dilation on that scale requires massive gravity or velocity. Some speculated that these could be miniature time slips caused by high energy distortions, possibly even evidence of quantum level glitches. CERN never formally claimed a malfunction of reality, but they did recalibrate every monitoring system afterward. In 2013, users on Reddit and Google Earth forums began reporting something strange. A small German town appeared as usual on Google Earth one day, then disappeared completely the next. Zooming in showed empty green space where buildings had been. Coordinates still worked, but all satellite imagery was gone. Then, 24 hours later, the town reappeared fully intact. Google never addressed the glitch, and there's no public record of map maintenance that day, so was it a software bug, or did reality briefly blink? During a solar eclipse in Zambia in 2022, astronomers and amateur photographers captured something they couldn't explain. A black dot hovering over the center of the sun for exactly 2.3 seconds. Not part of the moon, not a sunspot, just a void. Photos confirmed it, but live video feeds from the same locations showed nothing. Satellite logs from ESA and NASA recorded a momentary dip in light data as if something absorbed the sun's radiation completely. Some dubbed it a data void, others wonder if we briefly saw something not meant for us to see. In 2007, Lost Lake in Oregon mysteriously vanished. It happens actually every few years. The entire lake drains within 48 hours, but where does the water go? Geologists discovered a large hole at the bottom believed to be a lava tube from past volcanic activity, but even with that explanation, something just doesn't really add up. GPS mapping shows the volume of water disappearing is far greater than what a lava tube could handle, and it never floods nearby. It just vanishes. Scientists admit they have no complete model for what is going on here. In 1908, something exploded over the Siberian wilderness so violently that it flattened 800 square miles of forest, an area larger than the entire city of London. The shockwave knocked people off their feet hundreds of miles away, but when investigators arrived, they found nothing. No crater, no meteorite, just trees snapped in a radial pattern, some burned from the inside out. To this day, scientists still don't know what caused it. Was it a comet, a black hole, a pocket of antimatter? Whatever it was, it left behind one of the most powerful and unexplained events in Earth's history. Late at night near Marfa, Texas, locals and tourists have reported seeing balls of light dancing just above the desert floor. Called the Marfa lights, these glowing orbs, often the size of basketballs and colored white, blue, yellow, or red, appear completely out of nowhere. Witnesses say the lights can merge together, split apart, hover in the air, or zip off into the distance. What makes it creepier is that they only show up about a dozen nights a year, with no pattern in sight. The first known sighting was in 1883, and the legends grew from ghosts of Spanish explorers to secret alien bases. Scientists have weighed in with more down-to-earth ideas, maybe heated air layers bending distant car headlights, a mirage called a fata morgana, or swirls of methane gas igniting. Some physics students even filmed headlights and got similar glows. Yet even with these theories, no one can completely explain why the lights behave so oddly. There are nights when folks line up with cameras and see nothing, only for the sky to erupt in orbs the next. Scientists still admit nobody knows for sure what they are. The Marfa lights remain a true frontier of mystery, a shimmering glitch on the highway to the underworld.
On October 8, 2022, something shocking happened during a live news broadcast on Iran's state-run television. In the middle of the program, the feed suddenly cut away to a masked figure, then to a black screen showing a politician surrounded by flames, with a digital target placed directly over his head. This lasted for about 12 seconds. The screen also displayed photos of 4 women who'd recently died during protests. Alongside the image was the phrase "Woman, Life, Freedom," repeated multiple times. The group responsible for the interruption identified themselves as Adalat Ali, a hacktivist collective already known for leaking internal Iranian government documents before this incident. Clips of the hijacking spread almost instantly, both inside and outside Iran. This next story is a first-hand account from a now-deleted Reddit user who wrote, "This has bugged me for years, and I'm honestly starting to wonder if I somehow imagined it. I grew up in southern Ohio, near the Cincinnati area, and this would have been sometime around 2003 or 2004. I was maybe 12 or 13. It was a school night, probably around 9 or 10 p.m., and I was watching TV alone in my room. I don't remember the exact channel. It might have been a local station or basic cable. I know it wasn't a premium channel. I wasn't really paying attention much to what was on. I usually use the TV to fall asleep, but I noticed when this happened. Out of nowhere, the show cut to a black screen, then this grainy video fades in. It looked like security camera footage or maybe a camcorder pointed at a TV. There was a man sitting in a chair, facing away from the camera. You couldn't see his face. He just sat there while this low humming noise played. After maybe 20 or 30 seconds, he slowly turned his head toward the camera, but the video cut out before you could really see him. Then the screen went blue for a second and the normal show came back on, like usual. The next morning, I kind of wondered if I'd just been half asleep and dreamt the thing, but when I mentioned it to a couple friends the next day at school, 2 other kids say that they saw the same thing. One lived a few streets over, another was in a different part of town. We asked our parents, but they either didn't believe us or hadn't seen it. I've searched for this on and off for years. Reddit, Forums, old TV hijack lists, I've never found anything even close. If anyone else remembers something like this in Ohio around the early 2000s, please tell me I'm not losing it.
Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord. Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord. Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord.
On January 3rd, 2007, viewers in Australia were watching a Canadian show called Mayday. Partway through the episode, a clear male voice with an American accent cut in, saying what you just heard. Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord. The line kept repeating over and over while the show continued, looping for about 6 minutes before it finally stopped. The channel came out later saying nothing illegal had happened. A network spokesperson claimed the audio was part of the original program. People were still super confused, of course. This just seemed like a very weak excuse. So some independent researchers looked into it and they figured it out. Turned out the voice came from a recorded news broadcast during the Iraq War, filmed on September 20th, 2005, showing a civilian truck being ambushed. How that audio ended up on an episode of a totally unrelated show 2 years later, though, that's never been explained. In early 2002, cable TV viewers in cities across China suddenly had their regular programming cut off by something completely different. It was a coordinated hijack carried out by members of Falun Gong, a spiritual group that had been heavily cracked down on by the Chinese government. The goal was to push back against the official stories surrounding a highly publicized incident from the year before. The clips accused the state of lying and called to an end to the persecution of Falun Gong. How long it lasted depended on where you were. In some cities it was over in a few minutes, in others, people reported it running for close to an hour, and in a few cases, even longer. This wasn't done remotely or through computers. The people involved physically tapped into cable broadcasting lines, which meant scouting locations, accessing equipment, and taking serious risks to pull it off. A few months later, police arrested 15 people tied to the hijack, and apparently, a bunch of them just happened to die in custody.
We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the cat dog. This is another video making its rounds on TikTok right now. Let me show it to you. So it appears as if the camera person's neighbor's dog is up on the roof. But you might be thinking, where is its body? Well, it looks like it's just peeking its head up onto the roof to see what's going on, right? Wrong. Let's see the full video. That's right. It's a cat, folks. The whole time, that was a cat. So this cat has a dog's face on its backside. How trippy and glitchy is that? That's a plot twist no one was expecting. In our 4th spot, we have the doubled up cars. Now, what are the odds of 2 of the exact same cars parking next to each other? And not in a dealership parking lot. Having the same make and model and color of the car being parked right next to you is pretty rare, right? Now, what are the odds of another set of identical cars being parked behind these identical cars? It's a very slim chance of this happening, but it happened in real life. So not only are the 2 blue Audis identical, but check the cars in the back as well. You got 2 identical Range Rovers back there. Someone out there really said copy paste, copy paste. Coming in at number 3, we have the spawning in. Now this video is another one going viral on TikTok right now, and it's baffling a lot of people. But basically, a security camera caught a man appearing out of nowhere. Check it out. Is this evidence of a man using his teleportation skills? How on earth did he just spawn out of nowhere? Now, of course, he could have been hanging out of the side of the van, or he jumped out while the van was still in motion. But if that was me and I jumped off of a moving van, I would have been like, whoa, you know, try and get my balance. But this guy was standing still, not off balance or anything. So let me know what you think. Did he jump out of a moving van and stick his landing? Or is he a teleporter? Or both? Coming in at number 2, we have the triplets. Bus passengers were shocked when they got on a bus and saw 3 identical looking men sitting in a straight line and all asleep. These men are complete strangers, yet they somehow all got on the same bus, all sat behind each other, and all decided to take a wee snooze. I just can't get over the fact that these men aren't related. Like, the first 2 could definitely pass as twins. This is just weird. Like, what are the odds? And in our number 1 spot today, we have the crossword ladies. If you thought that last picture was crazy, wait until you take a look at this one. These ladies are complete strangers, yet they look like twins and they're both dressed identically. They both are rocking some black pants with the exact same patterned blouse. They have glasses on their face and they both have a pair of dark sunglasses on the top of their head. Not only that, but they both have a love for crosswords as they are both doing one. Like, someone will look at this photo and think that it was set up, but no, these women are complete strangers. Again, literally somebody said, copy paste.
On January 3rd, 2007, people in Australia were watching Mayday Head-On Collision, a documentary about air travel disasters, when something very weird happened. In the middle of the broadcast on Channel 7, the original audio suddenly cut out and was replaced with a looping clip from an old news story about a Halliburton convoy ambush.
Lord, Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord. Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord.
The audio was just a truck driver named Preston Wheeler screaming, "Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord," over and over. The audio kept repeating that same line for 5 solid minutes while the visuals from the documentary kept playing. Nobody knew how this happened. One viewer said he kept calling the station while it was happening, but no one answered the phones. There was no follow-up, no investigation. Channel 7 just brushed it off and moved on. This one is very eerie though. On October 2nd, 2014, Colette Provencher was delivering a live weather report on TVA News from the rooftop of the network's building in Montreal. As she talked, a bright green orb floated across the sky behind her. She didn't notice anything at the time, but viewers definitely did. The footage spread online and people started arguing about what the glowing object actually was. Some said it was just a meteor. Others pointed out that the object looked way too big and wasn't moving like a typical shooting star. It also seemed to slow down mid-flight, which doesn't make sense for a meteor. The orb stayed visible for several seconds and didn't burn out like you'd expect. What are we looking at here? Good question. This clip was posted to Reddit by user Steve90,000, who wrote that on December 13th, 2024 at 5 p.m., ABC News caught an orb on video when in New Jersey investigating the drone situation. At the time, tons of people were spotting UAPs over the state. So what you're looking at here is just one of them. As for what it actually was, we still don't know.
Starting us off at the number 10 spot is the late Queen Elizabeth II. So it's no secret that there are quite a lot of people out there who are not fans of the royal family. And while for some it might just be about an overall lack of likeness towards the monarchy, there are many out there whose hatred stems from a deep-seated belief that everyone in the royal family are in fact shape-shifting lizard people. This all started from some footage that was found online of the Queen where some particularly strange eyes seem to appear out of nowhere. In the video, the Queen is standing at what appears to be a game of sorts, and then all of a sudden her eyes change to look almost like some sort of crazy demon. Immediately people were freaked and jumped to the conclusion that it was because she was a shape-shifting lizard. But others blew it off as just her having bloodshot eyes. Now, listen, I don't know about you, but I've never seen a bloodshot eye that was completely black before. I'm just saying. As you can imagine, this footage did not help the royal family's rep of being from the constellation Draco and only further cemented the belief that they are all evil lizards. What do you think? Coming in at number 9 is Katy Perry. So here's the thing about lizard people. They tend to be exclusively pinned on celebrities. Now there is some reasoning behind this. It's because the shapeshifters are supposed to be evil, and so they take over the bodies of celebrities or leaders in order to be able to have the power to wreak havoc on our world. One of the celebs that people swear is a lizard is none other than Miss Teenage Dream herself, Katy Perry. The footage that brought her into this world comes from an interview she did years ago where for just a millisecond it appears like her eyes change color from a sort of blue to green, and just for a second it looks like her pupils turn into slits. Oh, I should mention that apparently a calling card of these lizard people is that they have green eyes, so her eyes supposedly changing to green was seen as proof of her real lizard self peeking through. Suspicious? You tell me. Next up at number 8 is Rihanna. I I refuse to believe that Riri could be an evil reptile alien sent here to wreak havoc and cause evil, because number one, she's like the chillest human ever, and two, I mean, she's Rihanna, so I don't want it to be true. But it looks like even the good ones aren't safe according to believers of the lizard people. The proof comes from some kinda sus footage from what looks like a live talk show or something, and even though it's a bit blurry, it does look like there's something weird going on. If you pay close attention, it does appear that her eyes turn into slits for just a millisecond before turning back to normal. I mean, should we be worried? Could she really be a lizard person? I mean, even if she was, she would easily be the most beautiful lizard person I've ever seen, so at least there's that. Coming in at number 7 is Angelina Jolie. From what I have come to understand about the conspiracy race of the shape-shifting reptiles that walk the earth with us, is that more often than not, it is the eyes that give them away. Maybe their eyes are the hardest to control shape-shifting wise? I'm not totally sure, to be honest, but either way, there are definitely some strange videos out there with some weird things going on in the eyeball region. One of these videos is of A-lister Angelina Jolie. In this particular interview, you can see she's blinking her eyes a ton, which you might not think much of, but when you zoom in really tight and slow down the footage, you can see that there is a half a millisecond where it looks like her pupils elongate into slits before snapping right back into normal. My question is, does the blinking have anything to do with the trying to control their eyes from changing? Again, I have no clue what's true and have no facts to back that up, but the video is for sure a little strange. Next up at number 6 is Shakira. Once again, another pop princess with the voice of an angel has been accused of being one of the evil lizard people sent to destroy the planet. The clip that caused the uproar is from an interview a few years ago where, yep, you guessed it, her eyes slightly change shape for a millisecond. For starters, her eyes are already quite dark, so it's a little hard to tell at first, but when the video gets slowed down and you zoom in, I will admit I can kinda see where people are going with the whole eyes changing thing. There is a moment where it does kind of look like her pupils shift into a thinner shape, and dare I say the iris kind of goes more coppery? Is that a sign? I have no idea. Truth be told, it might not be quite as obvious as some of the other ones on the list, but nonetheless, there are many out there that insist she is among the shapeshifters. Apparently it's not just her hips that don't lie, but her eyes too.
Coming into number 5, we have an atomic bomb. On a Sunday morning Czech TV show Panorama, viewers were convinced that the Prague countryside was being bombed. The show is intended to attract tourists and generally shows live footage of idyllic landscapes. On the 17th of June 2007, the signal was cleverly hijacked. What looked like scenes from the usual show broadcast an atomic bomb being detonated over the land. This sent viewers into an absolute panic. Now, government officials were even concerned that Prague was being bombed. It turned out it was an elaborate hoax, but it took a few minutes to realize that. The hoax was actually a performance piece from a group called Zetoven. Coming into number 4, we have news of the zombie apocalypse. In 2013, TV viewers in Montana were stunned when Steve Wilkos' show on KRTV was interrupted by hackers. Pranksters interrupted the show to warn of a zombie apocalypse, saying that bodies of the dead were rising from their graves. They stated that updates would be posted as soon as new information became available. The mayhem happened amid an episode of Wilkos' show about teen cheaters taking a lie detector test. Now, the hack was a voiceover only and warned viewers not to approach the zombies as they're extremely dangerous. Immediately after the hack was taken down, KPTV released a statement. They said the situation was under control and yes, it was just a hack.
Have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living. Follow the messages on screen that will be updated as information becomes available.
Coming into number 3, we have the first of Max Headroom's appearances. On November the 22nd, 1987, the Chicago 9 o'clock news was interrupted on WGN-TV. Instead of host Dan Ronan discussing the Bears' victory over the Detroit Lions, the audience got a man in a mock news reporter suit wearing a creepy Max Headroom mask with sunglasses and a frozen grin. All audiences could hear was static. All they could see see was the maniac moving around as if he was being spanked. Now it appears the TV signal was hijacked for 30 seconds. When the signal finally made it back to the studio, Ronan nervously laughed. Well, if you're wondering what happened, so am I. On this day, the creepy intruder became an icon. Now we're building on this at number 2. That's right, coming in at number 2, we have the first time that Max Headroom speaks. Later, the same hijacker interrupted an episode of Doctor Who for around 90 seconds. In the secondary hijack, the plot thickened even further. This man got even creepier. The first hijack had no audio, but the second was a rant. The creepy hijacker spouted about Coca-Cola, Chuck Swirsky, and a dirty glove. After some weird lunging at the camera and head swishing and singing, the hijacker's bare bottom is spanked by an off-camera French maid. Making the whole saga even weirder, over 30 years later, we still have no idea who is responsible for the hijacking. Finally, most terrifying of all, because the threats were actually founded in reality, we have a very real declaration of war. In July 2006, Lebanese fighters fired shots over the Israeli border. This led to a 34-day war in which Israel retaliated hard. Israeli hackers took control of the Islamic Lebanese political party Hezbollah's TV station. They sent out a very chilling message of war. The hijacked signals started showing images of dead Hezbollah guerrilla soldiers. An image of the political party leader Hassan Nasrallah was then shown, along with the sound of gunshots and a voice saying, "Your day is coming."
In 1980, a cartoon called the Plastic Man Comedy Adventure Show was airing in Atlanta. And right in the middle of a commercial break, the screen suddenly cut to a still photo of a nude woman for just a couple seconds. The image had been spliced into a Georgia Forestry Commission ad. Turns out, it wasn't an accident. The station's general manager, Fred Barber, later said that 2 control operators had done it on purpose. These were the people who handled overnight sign-offs and morning startups. Apparently one of them liked splicing random stuff onto tapes as a joke. This time, a morning staffer didn't catch it before it went live. Both operators were fired immediately. In 1959, a few thousand people in Michigan tuned in to watch the World Series, only to have their screens go completely black for the first 3 games. First, everyone assumed it was just a technical issue, but it wasn't. A former station employee named Harold Lindgren had snuck into a relay station about 35 miles outside town and deliberately jammed the signal. In a pretty blunt way, too. He just shoved a bunch of steel wool into a pipe in the transmitter. He'd been fired a few weeks earlier and wanted revenge on the boss who let him go. Technicians from Chicago and Green Bay were brought in to figure out what had gone wrong. When police finally tracked him down, Lindgren didn't even attempt to hide anything. In 2007, Czech TV's Sunday morning show Panorama shocked a lot of viewers. Normally it was just calm footage of mountain resorts with soft background music. It was basically just a tourist ad, but on June 17th, one of the live cameras suddenly cut to what looked like a small nuclear explosion in the countryside. It only lasted a few seconds before the feed went static, which probably just made the whole thing more believable. The explosion was fake though, pure CGI, but it wasn't just added digitally later. A local art collective had physically tampered with the mountaintop camera to play their pre-recorded clip as if it were happening live. People freaked out, of course. Local tourism offices were pissed, worried it could scare visitors. Czech TV looked into taking action, but the collective behind it just shrugged and called it a social experiment. They wanted people to stop trusting everything they saw on TV, and for a few terrifying seconds, it worked. In 1987, the Playboy channel was briefly hijacked by a black screen displaying white text quoting Bible verses, instructing viewers to honor the Sabbath and repent. The Federal Communications Commission looked into it, and their investigation eventually led to a man named Thomas Haney, an engineer for the Christian Broadcasting Network. They found subtle traces in the signal that matched CBN's equipment. CBN denied having any involvement, and Haney said he didn't do it. Tests trying to recreate the hijack with the same equipment failed, but they still argued that Haney had the access and knowledge to carry this out. So he was convicted on 2 accounts related to the hijack, but cleared of interfering with another adult channel due to lack of evidence. He didn't serve time, but he did receive probation, a fine, and community service. In May 2006, WBAB, a rock station based on Long Island, had its signal hijacked, during a regular morning broadcast. Listeners were hearing Pink Floyd's Hey You when the song suddenly cut out. And what replaced it was probably the most racist song I've ever heard. I mean, yeah, we obviously can't play this for you here. It's full of all the worst slurs, modern and old school. The song was recorded in the 60s by Johnny Rebel, who was just an openly racist American singer. The song played for about a minute to a minute and a half before the station's normal feed returned. As for how this happened, it wasn't someone messing around with a weak pirate transmitter. The hijacker appeared to have overridden the station's studio to transmitter link, the signal stations use to send audio from the studio to the broadcast tower. To interrupt it, someone would have needed technical knowledge, the right equipment, and enough power to overpower the station's own signal. The station staff had no control while it was happening. Engineers couldn't cut it off remotely, which meant the interference was happening closer to the transmitter than the studio was. WBAB immediately called it a federal crime and contacted the FCC. And this wasn't the first time this had happened. A couple weeks earlier, the same song had briefly interrupted WBLI, WBAB's sister station. So for whatever reason, the person responsible was deliberately targeting those stations. But the FCC never made any statement about any arrests. As far as anyone knows, the person responsible got away with it.
Coming in number 10, we have the invisible car crash. Now, there are tons of ways to explain real-life glitches. When you see someone lag on camera, that could have just been the recording. When you see a plane stalled in the sky, like we had on our last video, that could be explained through some clever editing. But I don't really know how you fake a car crash like the one I'm about to show you. Yeah, you guys just saw what I just saw, right? That was a car that was crashing into nothing. There was a car that was zooming along the highway, and then it smacked into an invisible barrier. Now, this could have been some pole in the road that was angled so perfectly that the driver and the camera couldn't see it. Now, that is possible, but highly unlikely. How could something that thin and small be strong enough to cause a moving car that's going about 60 kilometers an hour to stop in its tracks? Was there some sort of invisible force field there that was left on by accident? Or could this just be someone spending hours editing something strange to put out as disinformation to make us all very confused? Either way, I would be pissed if I was the owner of that car. You don't do anything wrong, and then something invisible causes your car to be a write-off? Is that even covered under your insurance? Coming at number 9, we have sailing in the sky. If you have it in your mind that you will never reach the level of wealth to afford a sailboat, well, let me tell you that there's a whole other level of wealth that we have no idea about. There is a class of people who have been taking their boats to the skies. Aren't we all seeing that right now? I have no idea how reflections off the water will affect your camera and how it will pick that up, but that looks like someone got their boat to fly through the sky at a very reasonable pace. I mean, that boat is just cruising along, not too fast or slow. Sky sailing is a brand new thing, and this guy has already mastered it, but how on earth is that happening? Is there some new boat-shaped plane that we don't know about? I mean, that does sound like something that Elon Musk would make. Tesla has a car that looks like a tank, and now they have a plane that looks like a boat. Coming in number 8, we have teleporting, time traveling, or NPC. I would imagine that sometime in the future we will lock down teleportation. I don't know if time travel is on the table, but who knows? If we went back 100 years and got someone to eat Korean fried chicken, they might have an overdose from all the flavor. But if people are working on it, you would imagine it would take some time to work out all the kinks. In this next clip, we might be seeing the early stages of people glitching reality so they can teleport. You see, that massive truck had to swerve out of the way so that they didn't crash into that lady. Some random woman appeared out of nowhere, and it looks like she has a perfectly clean lab coat on. I mean, I don't know how someone would end up walking around in the middle of the highway miles away from any town, but they usually don't dress like they came right out of the lab. She seems so calm even though she was almost hit by a truck. Usually when a 16-wheeler has to swerve out of the way so it doesn't crash into me, I wet my jeans just a little bit. But she's just strolling like she knew she was going to be safe, or she's a poorly programmed NPC. Next on the list we have Brady Fiegel squared. There are a lot of people in this world who say they have found their twin. I'm looking at you, David Diggs. If I get tagged in one more picture of you, I'm gonna have to chase you down and take a side-by-side picture so people know we're not the same person. But even though David Diggs and I kinda look the same, we have nowhere close to the same similarities as Brady Fiegel and Brady Fiegel. For one, both these guys have the exact same name. On top of that, they both play professional baseball. On top of that, they are both left-handed pitchers. This seems pretty rare, and you would expect this to be the point where the similarities end. Well, guess what? There's more. For one, they both look almost identical. They both have had the same surgery from the same doctor, and they even dress similar, wearing the same glasses. It would seem that the random person generator that populates this planet with people might have glitched and made two copies of the same dude. People thought that they might have been long-lost twins that were separated at birth. A DNA test showed that that wasn't true, but they did have the same German ancestry. Coming in next on the list, we have the cat reflection. I don't know what kind of software is going into making the mirrors in our giant simulation world, but it would seem that this is a place ripe for glitches. Oh, and just so we're clear, I'm not a believer in simulation theory. I just like playing along with the theme for this list. But even though I think that everything can be explained logically, this next clip is a little trippy. The CPU that is in charge of getting everything running must have been putting the computing power somewhere else when this went off. I mean, that would be a good sign to tell if you are an important person if you think simulation theory is real. Like, if this is indeed a simulation, I'm going to play with this idea for a moment, and there are a bunch of glitches around you, that would mean that the universal computing power is being used somewhere else on more important and interesting people. So if you see those glitches, that's your sign to step up your game because your life is boring.
In 1959, a few thousand people in Michigan were trying to watch the World Series when their screen just went black for the entire first 3 games. Turned out it wasn't a tech failure. A former station employee named Harold Lindgren had snuck into a relay station miles out of town and jammed the signal by shoving steel wool into a pipe in the transmitter. He'd been fired a few weeks earlier and wanted to get back at the boss who let him go. He called the whole thing a diabolical plot. And to be fair, kind of was. He drove out at night, climbed a fence, sabotaged the equipment with stuff he'd just grabbed from his kitchen sink. Technicians from Chicago and Green Bay had been brought in to figure out what happened. When police finally tracked him down, Lindgren admitted to everything. He didn't really seem to care about hiding it, just wanted to make a point. In 1980, WSB-TV in Atlanta had a bizarre incident during a kids' cartoon block. Oh boy. The Plastic Man Comedy Adventure Show was on. Yeah. That show that we all remember. Well, right in the middle of a commercial break, the screen suddenly cut to a still photo of a woman for a couple seconds, nude. The image had been spliced into a Georgia Forestry Commission ad. It seemed like an accident, but apparently it wasn't. The station's general manager, Fred Barber, later admitted that 2 master control operators had done this on purpose. They were the guys who handled overnight sign-offs and morning startup duties. And apparently one of them liked splicing random things onto tapes, and this time no one on the station's morning staff caught it before it aired. The operators were fired immediately. Even though it was over in seconds, it caused a huge stir. Because, well, first of all, the time slot, worst time and place to show a naked woman on TV, and this was a major station. So the rules around tape handling and sign-on and sign-off procedures were tightened. On January 4th, 2000, the Teletubbies was playing on the GMA network in the Philippines. On this particular morning, for just a few seconds, the screen cut to a photo of actress Rosanna Rosas with her chest exposed. Teletubbies was weird enough as is. This was the last thing these young viewers needed to see. Obviously, this immediately triggered a warning from the country's media review board. GMA later explained that the whole thing was a mistake caused by an employee who was fixing a computer at the time. Apparently, he pressed the wrong button while trying to help with some system repairs, and somehow that caused the wrong image to flash on air. That sounds hard to believe. I mean, that really does sound like the excuse you give when you just don't know what to say. I pressed the wrong button, and then it was boobs. Anyway, they insisted nobody did this as a prank. The network apologized and promised to tighten up controls. The employee was never named. Wasn't much follow-up on whether he kept his job, but it's definitely freaked out parents and probably gave a few kids a weird memory of Teletubbies. They probably grew up thinking this was some bizarre fever dream. On October 8th, 2022, in the middle of a live newscast on Iran's state-run TV, the broadcast suddenly cut to a masked figure and a black screen showing Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei surrounded by flames with a digital target on his head. It only lasted 12 seconds, but this was very loud and clear. The screen also showed photos of 4 women who had recently died during the Mahsa Amini protests, along with the phrase "Women, Life, Freedom" repeated over and over. Mahsa Amini was a 22-year-old woman who died after being arrested by Iran's morality police for supposedly not wearing her headscarf the right way. Her death quickly set off protests all across the country. The group behind this hack called themselves Adalat Ali, a hacktivist collective that had already leaked internal government documents in the past. State TV anchors were clearly rattled when the feed returned. I mean, just look at this news anchor's face. People inside and outside Iran shared clips of the hack almost immediately, and it spread fast online. No one really knows how deep the investigation went or if anyone got caught, but even though it was under 15 seconds, this was one of the most direct, high-profile hacks ever pulled off on live Iranian television. Now, for obvious reasons, I can't actually find footage of these Soviet pirate broadcasting hacks. I mean, it was the Soviet Union, everything was very locked down, but back in the Soviet Union, where the government completely controlled radio and TV, pirate broadcasting wasn't done as a prank. This was one of the only ways to hear anything outside what the government wanted you to hear. As early as 1966, there were reports of a teenager in Kaluga hijacking the radio to spread fake news about a nuclear war breaking out with the US. That kind of hoax was rare, but actual hijackers were popping up constantly, especially during the 70s and 80s. They'd jump onto relay stations during programming gaps and broadcast their own music, their own opinions. Sometimes the state would lash back in newspapers, calling them radio hooligans and accusing them of jamming frequencies needed by emergency aircraft. Whether that part was true or just scare tactics isn't totally clear. I imagine there was a lot of exaggeration going on. Oh, there are even hotlines for citizens to report pirate signals, but these underground broadcasters kept showing up, proving how desperate the people were for anything that wasn't just government propaganda.
Next on the list we have Mark Zuck is a Matrix program. If there's anyone that could be a lizard person or a robot or an alien or some sort of simulation-based software person that has been put into the world to control us and cause havoc, it would be Mark Zuckerberg. And there have been several moments where people have caught this poor excuse for an alien trying to be a human acting weird. But this one has to be my favorite.
You need to focus and try not to let stuff bother you as much as possible. But it is going to bother you because you're human, and I was human. I am human, still.
The Zuck was caught red-handed saying that he wasn't a human. That has to be one of the most obvious glitches ever. The programmers would have been like, who's in charge of writing the script for Zuckerberg, and why did you make him act like a robot and make references to not being human because you're blowing our cover big time? I mean, let's say in the next few years there's a massive revolution and we get into a bunch of secret files about which famous people living among us are aliens and which ones are humans. I would be more surprised to find out that this guy is actually fully human. Next on the list, we have the rain spot. I mean, we all hate bad weather, so I think many of us would prefer if we could condense it into one spot and have everything else nice all the time. Well, I guess there must have been a trial run for some new rain patches, because that's what we got here. It would seem that for some reason the clouds in that area have glitched out and the rain is pouring down in only one spot. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. Now that has to be some sort of glitch or the plot to a children's book called The Loneliest Rain Cloud. A book about a cloud that is rainy all the time, but all the other clouds around him are nice, so he has no friends. And he travels around everywhere trying to make friends, but everyone runs from him because they don't want to get wet. Someone get my publicist on the phone because I have a book to write. Next on the list, guys, we have the smartphone time traveler. One of the wildest things ever caught on camera is the footage from a Mike Tyson fight that looks like there's someone filming the fight in the background. The reason that this is so weird is because the footage is from 1995, and even though there were some phones back then that could have been considered smartphones, there was nothing released that had a camera on it. That wouldn't be released for another 5 years. And when you look at the footage, it seems like that phone is a very modern smartphone. Now, this could have been some device that simply looks like a phone, and people have been making the case to say that this is in fact a smartphone, so they can argue that time travel is real, but really we have no idea what happened here. We have no idea who was recording this Mike Tyson fight with this mysterious device. Next on the list, guys, we have a plane vanishes. Now, there have been a lot of reports of all sorts of stuff like this. Like, apparently all of the alien stuff that happened in Roswell, New Mexico, that was all faked by the government because they were testing out experimental aircrafts, and they decided that making people think that aliens were real was safer than telling them what the military was up to. So what you're about to see might be some secret government aircraft caught on camera, or it might be a glitch. I mean, you all saw what I just saw, right? There was a plane there and then it was gone. Everyone was focused on it. It was in the sky and then it blinked out of existence like half the people in Avengers Infinity War. Also, random question for the comments. Would you rather be one of the people who blinked out of existence when Thanos snapped his fingers and then came back 3 years later to a whole new world? Or would you have rather been there the whole time and lived through the whole thing and saw the world post-snap? Well, whoever was on the plane seems like they didn't have a choice in disappearing because now they are for sure gone. Unless the sky is all a massive projection and that was just a glitch on one of the screens. And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have the Pope vanishes. Now, I will start off by saying I have no idea what the Pope does and what his powers are. Can he fly? Can he control the weather? Does he have telekinesis? I never went to church, so I don't know. So the clip that went viral of him vanishing about a year ago might be one of his holy powers, or it was a glitch that no one was supposed to see. Let's take a look. That was something that was seen from the Pope's balcony as he was addressing people about the COVID-19 pandemic. After his speech was done, he just vanished, and there were several news outlets that showed the exact same thing. So this wasn't just a broadcast that screwed up. Some say this might have been a hologram of the Pope because he was actually isolating somewhere and didn't want to catch the virus. I mean, we know that hologram tech is real. Most of us have seen that massive Tupac hologram that came out years ago. And if anyone has access to the latest and greatest hologram tech, it has to be the Pope.
One of the strangest phenomena caught on camera is the double sun effect. Basically, people have filmed what looks like 2 suns in the sky, and while this could be an optical illusion, some people think there could be something else going on. That what we're actually seeing is a glimpse into a parallel universe or an alternate reality. Jim Kaller, an astronomer at the University of Illinois, explains that the double sun is likely an optical refraction, but he calls it a, quote, pretty darn rare one, and admits that it's not fully explained by science, saying, "I doubt it's been computer modeled. There must have been some blob of atmosphere somewhere that caused this truly spectacular phenomenon, which in a sense is a mirage," end quote. Now, typically mirages happen when particles in the air bend light, but they're usually vertically aligned with the light source, not side by side like this double sun effect sometimes is. Kaller thinks that it could be a thick patch of atmosphere moving in front of the sun. There's even a historical reference to this in a book called Light and Color in the Outdoors by Flemish astronomer Marcel Meniart. He describes double sun phenomena in such detail that it almost matches the modern sightings. He wrote, "So many other instances have been reported that there is no longer any doubt about observations of sun and mock suns being at exactly the same altitude." But even with all this, experts still aren't sure what exactly causes this effect. Grant Perry, an atmospheric scientist, said, "This is not a common optical phenomenon that we're seeing here. It's definitely one of those effects that leaves you wondering, could we be seeing something more than just an optical illusion?" Imagine for a minute, if you will, that you've just died in a freak accident. Suddenly you open your eyes and an entity is standing over you explaining that you're dead, but has given you the opportunity to travel back in time to a universe running parallel to your own in order to save yourself from dying. Of course, what I've just outlined here is complete fantasy, but many people have watched this video here and conjured up similar ideas and stories. In this CCTV footage, we see two men walking down the street at night. Two men who look pretty similar, mind you, both wearing dark clothing, both around the same height, same male pattern baldness. Now the man trailing behind catches up to the dude in front and taps him on the shoulder just as a car passes, and then out of nowhere, this metal object swings out just in time for the guy to jump out of the way. If he hadn't received that warning tap on the shoulder, the thing would have plowed right into him. Now, there's a lot to unpack with this video. First of all, and what most people point out immediately about this video, is the fact that the guy who gives the warning tap seems to know what's about to happen. He doesn't look back and react like, oh god, we're about to be hit, I better warn this guy. No, he doesn't even seem concerned with his own safety at all. He just is always looking forward, taps the guy, totally calm, almost as if he's experienced this before. He also doesn't stick around, doesn't look at the guy directly, just taps him and then moves on, almost like he doesn't want to be seen. But why wouldn't he want the other guy to see his face? Why the hurry to get away? Well, the fun theory, of course, that started to spread online is that the dude who gave the tap is a time traveler, possibly even a future version of the dude who nearly got hit. Now, is this the only explanation? Well, of course not, but it's a fun idea, and I think there's enough strangeness about this video that it's not easy to chalk up to mere coincidence. Even if there's nothing extraordinary about this video, it's pretty miraculous how this man was mere inches from death. The multiverse theory may actually have some observational science evidence behind it. Scientists at the European Space Agency Planck Orbital Observatory have been studying something called CMB, or cosmic microwave background radiation. This radiation is left over from the early super hot stages of our universe. Now, back in 2010, a team from the UK, Canada, and the US discovered 4 strange circular patterns in the CMB. It's not clear what these patterns mean, but one cool idea is that they could be the result of our universe bumping into another one. In 2015, another scientist at the European Space Agency, Rand Ramchari, made a similar discovery. He took a model of the CMB and removed everything we know, like stars, gas, and dust, and expected the image to be pretty much blank. But when he did that, it wasn't blank at all. Chari found areas of the sky that were 4,500 times brighter than they should have been. His theory, those light patches could be imprints from a collision between our universe and another one.
When a news crew went looking for ghost stories, they might have gotten more than they bargained for. In 2021, WNYT News Channel 13 in upstate New York did a live report from the Green Ridge Cemetery as part of a Halloween segment. Reporter Sam Hessler was on air in the pre-dawn hours, walking among the tombstones while a guide shared spooky historical tales. The broadcast went smoothly until viewers at home noticed something on their screens that even the crew on site missed. In the background, behind Sam, a misty white figure seemed to drift between the graves. It was brief and subtle, a flicker of what looked like a person or a fog moving fast. After the live shot, one astonished viewer alerted the station, and Sam herself was stunned reviewing the footage. She hadn't seen anything in person. WNYT later acknowledged the eerie moment, assuring folks the clip was unedited and truly aired live. The internet, of course, lit up with ghost caught on live TV posts and theories. Some paranormal enthusiasts called it one of the best accidental ghost sightings on a news broadcast, evidence of a spirit roaming the cemetery. Skeptics countered that it could have been a camera glitch, a passing car's headlights reflecting, or even a stray piece of insect or dust close to the lens creating a blur. The station's own write-up teased it as something almost too crazy to be real and encouraged viewers to watch and decide for themselves. You're watching HGTV and suddenly an emergency alert pops up warning that the end of the world is here. What do? That nightmare scenario actually happened to some TV viewers in Southern California in September 2017. Without warning, regular programming was interrupted by the emergency alert system. The typical alert banner scrolled, but then things got truly terrifying. A booming male voice came on and proclaimed, "Realize this, that in the last days extremely violent times will come." Imagine hearing that out of the blue on a Thursday morning and you're just trying to love it or list it. Understandably, people freaked out. It sounded like a prophecy of an imminent apocalypse or some wartime broadcast. As dramatic as it was, this turned out not to be the work of pranksters or an alien overlord, but simply a technical glitch and incredibly bad timing during a routine test of the emergency alert system. In short, the system glitched out and aired a fire and brimstone sermon by mistake. Cox and Spectrum cable customers heard what sounded like a doomsday warning, but it was just Pastor Chuck Swindoll quoting the Bible, 2 Timothy 3:1, on an FM station. Both the cable company and the FCC confirmed it was an error, not a hack, but not before scaring the heck out of viewers. In the middle of a live US Congress debate, viewers suddenly saw something Russian. In January 2017, politics junkies watching a C-SPAN online feed got a strange surprise. The feed, which was showing a live House of Representatives session, abruptly switched to Russia Today, the Kremlin-funded news channel, for about 10 minutes. Given that this occurred amid intense news about Russian cyber interference, many thought C-SPAN had been hacked by Russians in real time. C-SPAN quickly investigated and put out a statement. They didn't believe it was a hack, but rather a routing technical error. The leading theory is that some glitch caused the RT feed to literally overlap and replace the C-SPAN feed on their site. In simulation terms, it's like two different programs momentarily cross-wired. The timing, however, was almost comical. It happened just hours after a power outage oddly halted a Senate hearing about Russian hacking. Even Waters, whose speech was interrupted, remarked on the curious timing and demanded a clear explanation. Seeing Moscow News pop up in a US government broadcast felt like a scene from a spy movie, or a reminder that the simulation has a twisted sense of humor. Our final glitch was literally one word caught in an endless loop, and of course, that word was Russia. Also in January 2017, I guess a bad month for TV gremlins, MSNBC's show Hardball experienced a freaky moment. Journalist Dave Ignatius was talking to host Chris Matthews about, ironically, Russian interference in US politics. He said the word Russia and bang. The screen flickered and started repeating Russia, Russia, Russia over and over in a feedback loop. Chris Matthews looked confused as the glitch kept going for several seconds, echoing Russia in a creepy cadence until the control room cut to commercial. Given the climate at the time, Twitter exploded with jokes that Moscow hackers or the Kremlin Matrix had struck again, but most likely this was just a bizarre technical malfunction. Perhaps a failing satellite feed or encoding error that caused a few seconds of audio/video to loop. The fact it looped that particular word on that particular topic, well, that was gold for conspiracy lovers and also late night comedians. MSNBC assured it wasn't intentional and nothing nefarious was found. If we do live in a simulation, it definitely has a flair for dramatic irony.
Let's talk about one of the most talked about photographs of all time, at least when it comes to the strange and unexplained. In 1941, a photo was snapped at the reopening of the South Fork Bridge in Goldbridge, British Columbia. At first glance, this looks like your typical historical photo. It's black and white. People are dressed in 40s clothes, old school cameras, all that stuff. But wait, there's one guy in the photo who immediately catches your eye. He's wearing more modern looking sunglasses, a printed t-shirt, and holding what looks like a camera that's too small for the time. People online have gone wild with the idea that this guy was a time traveler who slipped into the past wearing clothes from the future. A hipster from today somehow stuck in the middle of a 1940s photo. A pretty wild and far-fetched idea, and of course some people have tried to debunk this one, saying the sunglasses were actually a style from the 1920s. The printed t-shirt, well, on closer look, Turns out it's just a sweater with a sports emblem on it. As for his camera, it was smaller than most, but portable cameras did exist back then. Boring, right? Well, sure, maybe all of that makes sense, but it doesn't stop people from wondering. Cause the guy does just stick out like a sore thumb. And at the end of the day, there's no way we can really know for sure. And that's not the only supposed time traveler captured on camera. There's also the story of Chaplin's time traveler. Take a look at this video here and see if you can spot anything odd, aside from the zebra statue. Yeah, see the woman walking in the background? Looks like she's holding something to her ear, right? Almost like a cell phone. Now, it's easy to look past this. I mean, cell phones are so common now that they almost seem like extensions of our bodies. But yeah, people didn't have cell phones back in the 1920s. In case you didn't know. Back in October of 2010, a filmmaker named George Clark uploaded a clip to YouTube titled Chaplin's Time Traveler. In the video, he's analyzing a bonus feature from the 1928 Charlie Chaplin movie The Circus. The clip shows footage from the movie's Los Angeles premiere, and if you look closely, there's that woman walking by holding what appears to be a strange device to her ear. Clark thought she was talking into a mobile phone, something that definitely wouldn't have existed in 1928. So it got people talking. Was this footage of a time traveler? Had this woman slipped into an alternate timeline from the future? Well, it's probably exactly what happened, but some people have some other more out there ideas. Nicholas Jackson, for example, an associate editor at The Atlantic, pointed out that the woman could have just been using a portable hearing aid. This was a very new piece of technology at the time, so it wasn't common to see, but it is possible. But, I mean, isn't time travel, or the idea that this was a woman crossed over from another reality, more plausible to you than an old-timey hearing aid? Well, we're finally here. I've done videos on the channel before talking about the Mandela effect without ever directly discussing one of the most famous of all time, the Darth Vader "Luke, I am your father" line. While considering James Earl Jones just recently passed away, and the title of the video being Parallel Universes Captured on Camera, I thought I'd give my 2 cents on this one. According to huge swaths of the population, the version of Star Wars we watch now is not the one we remember, and I'm not talking about all the George Lucas edits. This goes deeper, almost like the version we watched when we were young was from some alternate universe, or we've all slipped into an alternate universe ourselves. At least those of us that remember the line being "Luke, I am your father," and not just "No, I am your father." Considering this is one of the most famous movie moments in history, it really is strange how often people would get this wrong. Every Vader impression at recess began with "Luke." Parodies would get the line wrong. One that sticks out to me is in Toy Story 2 with Zurg's line, "No, Buzz, I am your father." So what's going on here? Are a bunch of us simply misremembering the line, or have we all really slipped into a galaxy far, far away? So this video was posted to Reddit by user Upstairs Cash 8400, and it's pretty bizarre. At first, it just looks like an empty street with a bird in the sky until you realize that that bird's not moving. Then things get even stranger when we see a mother and son both looking up at the bird, completely confused about what they're seeing. So this is not just a glitch in the video. Now, sure, they could be part of a hoax, but if they are, they do a pretty good job of acting it out. What makes this so weird is that there's nothing behind the bird. It's just open air. It's not near a building. It's not like it could be a sculpture or something. It's just hovering. No strings, nothing. Definitely a bizarre one. And finally, we have the WOW signal. This mysterious radio signal was picked up in 1977 by an Ohio State University radio telescope, lasting just 72 seconds. It got its name from astronomer Jerry R. Amon, who wrote "WOW" next to the data printout. The signal's frequency and intensity were unlike anything we've seen from natural sources, leading some to speculate that it could have come from extraterrestrial life, but there's another theory that it might have come from a parallel universe. Some think whatever created this signal could have dipped into a black hole and is now in a completely different universe. Of course, less exciting explanations like a passing comet or space debris haven't been ruled out either. While there's no definitive proof of anything, it's definitely worth checking out the recording. It's pretty spooky sounding. Lauren Tomasi, a reporter for Australia's 9 News, was covering massive ICE protests in downtown LA recently. She was positioned outside the Metropolitan Detention Center, reporting live when a police officer fired a rubber bullet that struck her in the leg. She screamed, grabbed at her leg. Tomasi limped away from the scene and later reassured viewers that she was okay. The network confirmed she had minor injuries but was otherwise unharmed. On August 25, 2025, Israeli forces carried out 2 airstrikes at a hospital in Gaza. Journalists were stationed on the hospital staircases and nearby balconies, broadcasting live feeds for Reuters, the Associated Press, and other international media. The first strike hit the staircase where multiple journalists were recording, immediately cutting off live feeds. Hassam al-Masri, a Reuters contractor, was operating a camera at the moment and was killed. Minutes later, a second strike hit as medics, hospital staff, and reporters rushed in, killing more people. In total, at least 22 people died. Among them were 5 journalists. At least 50 people were wounded as well, including hospital staff and civilians who were just trying to help the injured. In August 2025, reporter Dip Saikia was covering a flower festival in northern India when someone in the crowd started firing. He was hit in the right leg and under his armpit by at least 1 bullet. Festival goers scattered. Villagers at the scene quickly apprehended a suspect and held him until police arrived to take over and start questioning. Authorities later recovered what they believed was a pressurized air rifle at the spot. Saikia was taken to the hospital for first aid and then moved out of the area for further treatment. The editor of Saikia's channel called the incident an attack on press freedom and stressed that violence against journalists doing their jobs should not be tolerated. News outlets stated that journalists in the region sometimes face hostility while covering events. In 2013, Lee Halpin was 26. He was trying to break into journalism. He already had experience editing a magazine and hosting a radio show, and he wanted to get into an investigative journalism course with Channel 4. As part of his application, he came up with an idea to make a documentary about homelessness in his hometown of Newcastle, England. He posted a video online the day before he started, where he explained he was going to sleep rough, live on the streets for a week to get real footage of what life was like for people without homes. He spent his first night on the streets, and then a couple days in, a homeless guy he'd met invited him into this old abandoned building to sleep. The next morning, Lee didn't wake up. A friend who was with him went to check on him and found him unresponsive. Emergency services were called in. Police found his body in the derelict building 3 days into his project. Doctors in the coroner couldn't find a clear cause of death though, after ruling out things like hypothermia, illicit substances, injuries, or heart disease. So they had to just record his death as sudden adult death syndrome, basically meaning his heart suddenly stopped for reasons they couldn't explain. Alright, let's close things out with a bit of levity. This one is just great. It sounds like a Kramer plot in a Seinfeld episode, but it actually happened. On May 8, 2006, BBC was doing a tech segment about Apple and its new product launch. The plan was to have Guy Cuny, a tech expert, live on air. Well, somehow the wrong guy ended up being interviewed. Guy Goma, a Congolese man in London for a job interview, was seated and suddenly handed the mic. The presenter introduced him as the expert, and look at his face when he realizes what is about to happen here. I mean, the amount of emotions he expresses on his face in those few seconds, it's just exquisite. You can see the wheels turning in his head. So the host then starts asking all these technical questions about Apple products, RSS feeds, internet trends, people downloading music online, and Guy just nervously tried to answer as best as he could, and the camera was right on him the whole time. Honestly though, he did pretty well. There weren't any long, awkward pauses. He handled it like a champ. The video exploded online, of course, and became one of those first viral TV fail moments. In 2007, viewers of a Czech TV's Sunday morning show Panorama got a pretty disturbing surprise. The program usually just airs quiet, scenic shots from mountain resorts, basically tourism ads. But on June 17th, the feed from one of the cameras suddenly showed what looked like a small nuclear explosion going off in the countryside. It only lasted a few seconds and ended in static. This was subtle enough that some viewers didn't know if it was real or not, but the explosion was actually fake. It was CGI, planted by a local art collective. They'd physically tampered with the mountaintop camera to inject their pre-recorded video into the live broadcast. It's a creepy video. Really hits that analog horror kind of vibe before the analog horror genre was fully formed. Just this shot of a calm, scenic landscape with lazy elevator music playing in the background, and then this horrific explosion going off in the distance, totally offsetting everything. It all looks pretty convincing too. The group had pulled off other stunts before, but this one hit a nerve, especially with tourism businesses in the area who said it could scare visitors away. Czech TV considered legal action, but the group framed it as a kind of social experiment about media trust, forcing people to question what they were seeing on TV. In 1985, 4 Polish scientists pulled off something that looked more like a science fair project than a protest, but really rattled the government. These were astronomers, not hackers, and they used a ZX Spectrum home computer, some homemade circuits, and a transmitter to beam anti-regime messages right onto state-run TV in the city of Torun. Overlaid on the screen was text saying, "Solidarity, Torun. Boycotting the election is our duty. And solidarity, Torun. Enough price hikes, lies, and repression." All of it was signed with the logo of banned labor movement. Viewers at home were probably stunned to see the state's broadcast suddenly taken over by what looked like on-screen subtitles calling out the system. It didn't last long, but it did make a point. The 4 scientists were eventually caught and charged with owning an illegal transmitter and publishing what was labeled dangerous material. They received 4 months in jail and a fine. Put yourself in the shoes of some dude tuning into the Playboy channel in 1987. You know, you have a mullet, you just finished cruising the highway with your top down blasting Motley Crue on the radio, and the best way to top off the day is to tune in to the channel with maybe a brew or two. That was the 80s, right? Well, on this day, you're in the middle of your spicy movie when all of a sudden the screen gets overtaken by this black background with a simple white message quoting Bible verses telling people to honor the Sabbath and repent. That kind of kills the vibe. Well, the FCC eventually zeroed in on a guy named Thomas Haney, who worked as an uplink engineer for the Christian Broadcasting Network. Even though the message didn't say where it came from, investigators noticed certain video fingerprints, subtle traces in the signal that hinted at the type of equipment used, and from that they connected it to CBN. The station denied being involved, of course. Haney swore he was innocent, and CBN said their gear couldn't have even pulled it off. They tried to recreate the hijack using the same setup and failed, but the government argued otherwise, saying that it was possible and that Haney had the access and technical know-how. Eventually, a jury convicted him on 2 counts, though he was cleared of interfering with another adult channel due to poor video evidence. He didn't serve time, but he did get probation, a fine, and community service. Gotta say, I'm no expert on things like this, but I don't think things would play out the same way today. I don't know. I don't think the dude would have gotten in nearly as much trouble today. Society's just, I don't know, a little more prudish these days. They took their Playboy very seriously back in the 80s, it seems. In early 2002, cable TV viewers in several Chinese cities were suddenly interrupted by unexpected programming. It was a planned hijack by members of Falun Gong, a spiritual group that had been heavily suppressed by the Chinese government. The hijackers wanted to challenge the official version of a disturbing public event from the year before. They showed videos disputing state propaganda and calling for an end to persecution. Depending on the city, the hijack lasted anywhere from a few minutes to nearly an hour, and some reports even longer. These weren't digital hacks, they physically tapped into broadcasting equipment, which took some serious planning. A few months later, 15 people were arrested, and they were given very harsh prison sentences. In the years that followed, reports came out that several of those arrested had died while in custody. But those claims have been hard to verify because of how tightly China controls information. During the 2006 Lebanon War, Israel managed to break into Hezbollah's Al-Manar TV and broadcast their own message, a very direct threat aimed at Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah. His face appeared on screen with crosshairs over it, followed by the sound of 3 loud pops and footage of Israeli airstrikes. It only lasted a few seconds, but the point was quite obviously not subtle. Fast forward to 2014 during the Gaza conflict, and this time the other side hijacked Israel's Channel 10 with a warning telling people to stay in their bomb shelters, mixed with graphic images from Gaza. Then again in 2016, people watching Big Brother on Israel's Channel 2 suddenly had their feed cut and replaced with another propaganda clip. That one lasted about 3.5 minutes, just long enough to get noticed before it was pulled. None of these takeovers were super polished, but they were meant to shake people up, not just jam the airwaves, but get into viewers' heads. When we're talking about broadcast interruptions that terrified the public, well, these are pretty much the textbook definition. This is one of the most chilling cases of live news coverage going horribly wrong. In the morning of August 26, 2015, two journalists in Roanoke, Virginia were doing a live TV interview at Bridgewater Plaza near Smith Mountain Lake. Reporter Allison Parker and photojournalist Adam Ward were standing on a balcony doing an early morning segment about upcoming events for the lake's 50th anniversary. Allison was talking to Vicki Gardner, a local Chamber of Commerce director. Suddenly, a man walked up, 41-year-old Vester Lee Flanagan II, who had previously worked as a reporter at the same station. He was carrying a Glock. He fired at the reporter at least 8 times. Screams were heard as Ward's camera dropped to the ground, briefly capturing a blurry image of the man holding the firearm. Both Allison and Adam were struck and collapsed right there during the live segment. Gardner, the woman being interviewed, was also hit but survived after surgery. The station instantly cut back to the anchor in the studio, who later said she thought the noises might have been a car backfiring before realizing what had actually happened. After the attack, police launched a search for Flanagan. He was tackled, fled in a rented car, and during a police chase, later that same morning, took his own life. In June 1991, a man named Albert Dryden had been fighting local authorities for years for a small house he had built on his land. The government said the house was illegal and ordered it to be torn down. Dryden refused to accept that. By the time they showed up to knock it down, the situation had become a well-known thing, with TV news crews on site filming everything. On the morning of the demolition, a group of city workers and police showed up with heavy machinery to knock the house down. One of the people there was Harry Collinson, whose job was to enforce building rules and oversee the demolition. Dryden was already waiting outside, angry and armed. As Collinson walked toward him to speak, Dryden suddenly raised his firearm. Everyone just stood around. Journalists kept snapping photos. I guess they figured that he wasn't going to fire at them with so many witnesses, especially with cameras. But he did. Dryden suddenly fired at Collinson, who collapsed. Everyone ran and scrambled for cover as Dryden climbed over a fence and fired again toward Collinson on the ground. A police officer and a BBC cameraman were also hit while trying to escape. Dryden then fired toward vehicles and construction equipment before retreating to a caravan on the property. He claimed the area was booby-trapped, so police had to pull back and call in armed units. After a tense standoff, officers rushed the caravan and arrested him. Collinson did not survive. Dryden was later given a life sentence. In July 2025, heavy rains caused major flooding in Pakistan. A reporter was standing in waist-deep water near a dam, talking to the camera about how bad the flooding was and showing how fast the water was moving. His microphone was in his hand. The camera was live, and the scene looked dangerous even before anything had happened. The water suddenly got stronger. The reporter tried to stay steady, but the current grabbed his legs and started pushing him sideways. He stumbled, trying to brace himself, and leaned against the flow, still holding the mic. The camera kept rolling as the water dragged him further. For a few seconds, you could see his hand and the microphone above the water, and then he disappeared completely under the current. Now, I would hope he was pulled out of there, but from what I can find, there's no public report on what happened to him after he went under. I hope he's okay. Christine Chubbuck was 29, a reporter and anchor at WXL TV in Sarasota, Florida, working the morning program Suncoast Digest. The day started like any other morning, but little did anyone know Christine was planning something. When a pre-recorded segment about a local shooting jammed, leaving dead air, Christine looked straight into the camera and said the station would present, quote, what is believed to be a television first, and then said it would be, and now I gotta paraphrase for YouTube guidelines' sake, a live self-inflicted unaliving of television. and she pulled a firearm from under her desk and fired behind her right ear. The feed was cut almost immediately, but if you were watching live, you would have watched this happen. Colleagues later discovered Christine had scripted parts of what would happen after, including instructions for a staff member to report her condition as critical. She'd bought the weapon days earlier and had joked about using it on air, comments no one took seriously at the time. Her body was taken to Sarasota Memorial Hospital. She died about 14 hours later. Thankfully, the footage has never been released publicly. David Horowitz was a consumer reporter on KNBC's 4 p.m. news in Burbank, California. He was filming a normal segment when suddenly a man later found to be named Gary Stolman entered the studio and approached Horowitz with a firearm, which he pressed against the reporter's back. Stolman handed him a handwritten statement on yellow legal pads and demanded he read it live. The statement included all these incoherent claims about conspiracies involving the CIA and aliens. Horowitz had no way of knowing if the weapon being pointed at him was real. He must have been terrified, but somehow he maintained his composure and read the statement word for word. His voice barely even quivered. Producers ordered a cut, but several seconds of the interaction were already live on air. Stolman was arrested a few minutes later. Turned out the weapon Stolman was holding was just a realistic-looking BB, not an actual firearm. But again, there was no way the reporters knew that at the time.